Hi, my name's Charlie Burton, and welcome to this week's Ask Charlie in conjunction with Simon Campbell. And so Simon's has all these questions coming through to him quite regularly, and so this is a regular slot of us answering some of these questions where we best can. So this week's question is, time for crypto. So, with all cryptocurrencies down at the moment, is now a good time to get in? This is the question. Do you think crypto is a good asset to trade? Now, one thing that I'll make very, very clear up front here is I have invested in Bitcoin and Ethereum in the past, previously. I'm not currently exposed to them and or invested, and I think it's important for me to say that. And but I've never traded them. I don't trade them in the short term. So when I have got into them, it's been with the intention to be in them for a longer period of time. So let's go through this question here. With cryptocurrencies all down at the moment, is now a good time to get in? I think partly it's going to come down to, firstly, if you're interested in them as an asset class, then you're looking, I'm assuming, over a longer period, a longer time horizon to invest into them, because that's the question. If you're a short-term trader and you're trading with leverage, or you're just wanting to, even without leverage, but you're wanting to get in and get out, then timing is much more important. I've got a weekly chart up here of Bitcoin, and if I was looking to try and time it, then I would be, I'm still on the fence as to whether this is done yet. In fact, my personal view is I would actually quite like, it's not a guarantee, but I'd quite like to see Bitcoin come down lower yet. I'd quite like to see it get down to, you see my 200 week moving average down here. I'd quite like to see it down there, that whole 20,000 area. Remember, the 20,000 is those highs. If I drag this back, there we are. You can see that's that high of late 2017. It's just the scale as Bitcoin went so much higher there over the following years. So I'd quite like to see the 20,000 mark get hit. I have no vested interest in whether it has to go there. I'm not short. It's just from a technical perspective, we've broken this this channel here on the weekly charts, and technically, as an asset class, we know that Bitcoin has been, again, I'm always very careful with what you say here when you start talking about correlations, because correlations do come and go, but as we know that there has been a relatively high correlation between Bitcoin and the US and parts of the US stock market as well, notably the Nasdaq. So I guess it depends on your view of what the stock markets are going to be doing. So if you think that now's a great time to be buying the stock market, if you're uber bullish on the stock market at the moment, then now might be a good time to be looking at crypto. Now, one thing to bear in mind, I'm a little bit behind the time here. I'm actually out of the country right now. I'm on my annual vacation, so I'm just doing this as a recording, and so you might think, why is Charlie's charts behind? That's why, because I'm actually recording this on the 4th of June. You're probably watching this maybe on the 12th of June. I don't know. So I guess that comes back down to the stock markets. Where, if you're bullish on the stock markets, it's not an exact correlation, but we have seen these correlations whereby if the stock markets are going up, then other asset classes such as Bitcoin and cryptos can do better. But for me personally, overall, I would still quite like to see certainly Bitcoin. I'm not really too fussed. If the other majors in crypto world, such as Ether, would likely be coming down as well if Bitcoin's coming down. So the way that's how I'm looking at it. But again, it depends on your attitude towards the asset class. Because if you're saying, well, actually, I want to get in with the view to holding on to this for the next, I don't know, couple of years or even longer, then you start to put a different time horizon on this and say, well, okay, dollar cost averaging is a great investing tool, if you're investing into the stock markets over time, to just periodically, once a month, once every quarter, whatever it might be, to invest a certain amount into the stock market. If you have that same attitude towards cryptos such as Bitcoin, then probably one of the best pieces of advice that I can give you is to say, look, and setting aside the fact that we don't know as an asset class, nobody knows for certain whether Bitcoin's going to go to back to 50,000, 100,000, or go back down to 5,000 over the next couple of years. But if you believe in that asset class, this is what we're talking about here, and you're talking about timing it, then providing you're not trying to short-term trading it, if you're looking to invest into it, then one of the best ways to do so is to dollar cost average. So invest a certain amount now, then again, either on a monthly or a quarterly basis, and invest, and have a set amount set aside to drip feed into that asset class, because then you're taking advantage if it carries on coming down, if it carries on coming lower, but you're not having to be right on the money if it does come down now and you've bought it now, let's say at whatever it's in at 29,000 as I'm recording this. If it carries on coming lower, let's say I bought some now at 29,000, then it comes in a month's time, it's down at 23,000. I buy another little tranche at 23,000, then in a month after that, it's down at 19,000. I'm dollar cost averaging into it, and then I just carry on riding it. If it then carries on coming back up at some point in the future, so you're taking advantage of the weakness in the shorter term, in light of your view that ultimately as an asset class it will go higher. So I do think that sort of approach when it comes to investing is a good approach. Flip that on its side, on its head though, because if you're a trader, you don't want to be using that. If you're a short-term trader, with using, and you're putting a certain amount of your trading capital to work regularly, then dollar cost averaging with no stop losses is a dangerous thing. With investing, you're using asset allocation to say, right, this is a certain amount of my entire portfolio that I'm putting towards cryptocurrencies. So for example, you might say, well, okay, I'm going to put 5% of, let's say, 100,000 portfolio towards cryptocurrencies. So you know that you're going to ultimately be investing £5,000 at least initially into cryptos, and you can drip feed into that within that 5%. So you can put a percent in, then another percent, or whatever, however you want to go about doing it. So that would be my general advice there. So do I think now's a great time? The answer is it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. If you're in it for the longer run, what you do is you just start, and you start by dollar cost averaging. If you're a shorter term trader, or someone who might only want to be getting into it and then getting out if it has a pop, then okay, you've got to go with the price momentum. The price momentum overall, as I'm sitting here, is still to the downside. Personally, in fact, I would quite like to see a bounce in Bitcoin back up to retest this trend line, which is up in the sort of 35,000 area. I'd quite like to see that in the near term. We've had a trend line break. I'd love to see Bitcoin come up and at least retest that. So in the shorter term. But in the medium term, I'm personally still looking for it to go down. However, just because that's what I'm looking for doesn't mean guarantee that that's where it's going to go. So you have to make that decision as to when you want to be going in. My view is just a view, and so yes, it may well come down lower, but if it doesn't, at least you've started investing into it. Do I think crypto is a good asset to trade? Well, again, it depends on your view of trading, and that that question says crypto. So again, depends on the crypto, doesn't it? So if we've just seen of late with the likes of what happened with Luna, that you could be in certain cryptocurrencies which have, low liquidity, and you then realize what liquidity is all about because you can't get out. You're trying to get out and you just can't get out. There's no buyers for you to sell your crypto to. So is crypto a good asset to trade? If you're talking of trading, then I think you're better off trading the larger cryptocurrencies, which do have the volume, do have the liquidity there, rather than some of the altcoins. But in the main, I do not profess to be an expert in cryptos. I'm an expert in trading, but not in cryptos per se. Yes, I've had my dalliances with them. Like I've said, not actually in at the moment. So do I think it's a good asset to trade, or asset? Let's talk about it as an asset within a portfolio. I think Bitcoin has become big enough to be part of a diversified portfolio. So there's your answer there. So I think that yes, it certainly can be. But do I trade it? No, I quite happily just plod along trading the markets, the traditional currency markets and the stock market indices and commodities that I tend to do. And then now and again, I will go into crypto assets. I think if Bitcoin was to get down to 20,000, that's where I'll probably have a nibble in that zone again. And so in answer to your question, there you go. That's a long-winded answer this week, but hopefully giving you some food for thought there in answer to that question.